We're going to be taking you through the progress of our black comedy feature film.
Who are you, by the way? Nobody knows who we are.
What this is a DIY cinema podcast for DIY filmmakers. The idea is that you don't wait for permission, you just start.
This is our first feature film, something we're going to do together. You're going to get it warts and all.
So we just go into it?
I kind of think we could.
This is DIY Cinema Cult.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Aaron. How you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm very good.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 9 now of DIY
9.
Cinema Cult.
Number 9. Number
9. Absolutely, we're here, number 9.
It's amazing, and we realise that we have got more episodes recorded in isolation than outside of isolation, whatever the opposite of isolation is. What's the opposite of isolation?
I can't remember anymore. It seems like such a long time ago. And we used to be able to walk outside and touch people. Well, you actually weren't allowed to do that. That was a bit illegal as well.
You know, that was always illegal, mate. We've had two fantastic guests over the past few weeks. So far, they've been kind of on the writer, director, producer sort of tip, but we've got a guest today from on the other side of the camera.
Absolutely. We've got Luca Zizzari, who is an actor who is working very hard on many sets in TV and film, and he's got some fascinating stories to tell, no doubt. He's worked with some amazing people.
Should be coming on very soon.
Waiting with bated breath for our guest to arrive.
In the meantime, I mean, I had an interesting thing happen on the film front today. I was chatting to somebody earlier on, and they were sort of talking about my documentary. I was talking to them, and they were sort of saying, well, are you approaching sales agents? And sales agents, in a way, are one of those kind of weird bits of the industry that I don't really know what they do. But as we are DIY filmmaking, we've got to start to kind of understand the industry from all different angles. And it just struck me as, well, how hard can it be? You know, because let's just figure out what these people do and how they can help. And basically, a sales agent is a kind of an in-between person. What they do is they take projects to the big distributed broadcasters, etc. But what they do is they add credence to your project. So it may be that you sign on with a specific sales agent, and they take that project and then they get to flog it because they get meetings that you don't. And actually, it turns out a lot of the time that the big broadcasters, the big distributors, they don't really want a director or a producer sat in their office. They want a sales agent. So as much as we think, well, we're independent filmmakers, we can just turn up and speak to anybody, actually the process, sadly, perhaps, is a very strict and somewhat kind of closed scene, in that they actually want people who have got professional accreditation, etc., to be the people that present film ideas first.
Absolutely.
So I've been contacting sales agents today, and I've had a couple of interesting conversations straight away. People are going, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool, and giving me feedback and telling me what they're looking for. Absolutely.
Well, it was Hadi, wasn't it, who said, don't do anything, don't make any moves when it comes to distribution without a sales agent, because if you're just approaching distributors yourself as an entity, you're going to just be kind of toyed with, really, because they won't take you seriously. So
they don't take you seriously.
Definitely. It's just because that's just that's just the process, I guess. It's at that stage of the production line, the people dealing with the meat and potatoes are the sales agents and the distributors, and the filmmakers are kind of not privy or not in any kind of position of control.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
Hey Luca, how's it going?
I'm good.
Good to see you, man. How you keeping?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So what's happening in lockdown?
Yeah. Not really much happening in terms of work-wise, other than trying to be creative. by yourself with all the means that you have. But and Juman and I don't know if you knew, but we have a self-tape service for actors, and
so you can keep that part of the business still going then.
I mean, relatively low.
So do you want to? So this is UB Self Tapes, right? Is that the name? That's the name of the company.
That's UB Self Tapes. Yeah.
Yeah, and is there a website that actors could go to?
It is ubselftapes.com.
Actually, this kind of might lead us onto something we want to talk about later on, which is actors diversifying into either writing their own material, or you yourself, like you're starting up a self-tape, like an audition, like a casting, an auditioning company. And that's amazing.
Yeah, well, we try to be as creative and diverse as we can.
Got lots we want to chat to you about. The people who listen to this podcast will be fascinated to know about some of the sets you've been on and some amazing people you've worked with. But I want to just take it back to the very start, just to introduce people to where we met. So we met on literally in a casting session.
Yeah, you were casting your I presume one of your first or early short films. Professional, I should say, professional short films.
Oh, professional filmmaker. That sounds nice, doesn't it, Mark?
That sounds great. I feel good now. Yeah, thanks.
No problem. So I think it was 2009. I think it was
something like that.
Alexandra Palace.
Alexandra Palace.
It was pouring down with rain. It was who is my wife now, Juman? She was like, "Are you really going to go to that short film audition today?"
Imagine if you had a man. We would never have known each other.
And I'm like, well, I mean, it's Saturday. What else have I got to do? It's crap outside. We're not going out. We're not staying in. The character that I was reading for was this cyclist who cycled all the way from Italy to London, and I would stop over for an espresso in this bar in this short film. Like I was saying to Juman, what do cyclists wear? So I had one of those zip jackets with an Italian flag on it, and I think I had.
You had a tire around you, which I was kind of dazzled by.
I had a tire with a wheel.
So well prepared.
You had bicycle's tire around you, and it was just you kind of came in, and it was, I've got to say, it was a whirlwind of a casting session. I don't think I've ever experienced one quite like it. You kind of just came firing into the room like a greyhound. And it was hilarious. I thought, well, there was no option, was there? It's like you're in the film straight away. That was like, I mean, I've just posted recently, Luca, on the on our Facebook page a copy of We Are What We Drink, because I was chatting about it in another episode. So if people want to watch We Are What We Drink, Luca is the kind of crazed Italian espresso man in the film. I don't
think anyone's gonna kind of mistake who Luca is
in that film.
In this.
No. People aren't gonna miss Luca in that film.
But how important is it for actors, particularly if you've just come out of drama college or the like, to kind of do short films or small low budget DIY type films, like you mentioned, kind of getting a show reel together? How important was it? How much did you do that kind of thing?
For me, it was very important, and I think it still is considered important for any actors to I mean, if you don't go and audition for people who are willing to put out there some decent form of work, i.e. a short film, professional short film, to make your own, and from then on, create some kind of footage for what it would be your show reel. And for an actor, a show reel is his or her calling card.
It's your passport.
Yeah. Because I'm not saying that 10 out of 10 casting directors will watch your show reel. They probably will, but I'm 100% sure that not every producer and directors will watch your short film, but somebody along the line within the casting process will look at your work. Yeah. So I think it's very important, vital, I think.
Vital. Yeah. And I mean, how are you kind of coping in the lockdown, because there's no productions happening at the moment, right? So
I mean, my agent told me that there's going to be a backlog of productions as a result of the lockdown. Therefore, being a backlog, a lot of productions will never happen who were supposed to or scheduled to begin, probably September, between June and September is always a good, those are the very busy dates for shooting. Yeah. Also, a lot of the pilot seasons projects will be drawn out. And so it is a shame that, that unfortunately a lot of people got laid off work as a result of that. I'm not just talking about actors, but, crew members and, producers, production companies. It's a disaster for the industry, I think, but it's not the only industry that is suffering.
What got you into acting, Luca, and what actors inspired you really early on?
Well, I was really young. I think I was around 8 or 9, and there was this porn actor. His name was Rocco Siffredi.
It's an actor's life for me.
Answer. No, it wasn't porn. No, it was. I was young, and I remember I was watching. My dad was very much into westerns and police, kind of films at the time, or the spaghetti westerns. So I was always subjected to watch a lot of, I would say, good films, predominantly American. Even the spaghetti western they were really Americanized. It was almost like Sergio Leone's or Sergio Corbucci's stamp on their point of view about America and what America meant to them. But what inspired me, obviously, I was drawn into the fictional worlds that these people were creating. I mean, one of my favorite films, before I go further explaining how I got into it, one of my favorite films was Once Upon a Time in the West and The Good and Bad and the Ugly.
Yeah, amazing.
But Once Upon a Time in the West was one of my favorite films because you had Henry Fonda, who was normally seen as, a kind of fresh-faced, good American guy.
Yeah.
And then, Sergio Leone really wanted to portray him for what I think he knew what kind of real man he was, or really was, or thought he really was. And so he decided, how about this role? You play a really nasty piece of work, and you just really get to be colorful. Because I suppose Henry Fonda must have felt like, I don't want to play the good.
And I always wanted to ask about your particular. You've studied a particular sort of strand of acting, the sort of Meisner. So you talk about that process and how it differs, I suppose, from other kind of acting training.
Well, like I was about to say, I was about 8 to 10 years old, and I remember I was saying to my mum, I really want to go into some kind of musical theatre school. And I remember at the time I watched a film with Marlon Brando, which was on the waterfront. And obviously I was really drawn into what he was doing. I didn't think it was different than Once Upon a Time in the West and all the Eastwood's films. I didn't make anything of it. And then moving forward, a few years later, I moved to London and I was working as a cabin crew for British Airways. And I came back home one day. I was exhausted. I was tired. After a 3 days trip, I think it was. I don't remember where it was, but I think it was one of those night stops.
Used to work you hard back then.
Yeah. And so I came back, and there was Raging Bull on the telly. I just saw De Niro doing an impersonation of Marlon Brando from On the Waterfront.
He does, of course, in the dressing room,
And I just thought, if this is not a calling card for me right now, I don't know what that is. Because I was at that point when I was working, I was just like at the end of my tether, and I just really I wanted to change. I didn't feel like I was fulfilled. I remember I Googled online and I saw this teacher called David Bennett. And he was teaching at the Diorama Arts Center. And so I went along and I didn't meet David. I bumped into another teacher called Sam Bramlow, who happened to teach at the same time as David in the other side.
Okay.
And he was teaching his take on what is considered to be a method acting approach to acting, as I found out.
Okay, because isn't Meisner was himself a student of Stanislavski? Is that right? But he broke away with his own.
Meisner was Sandy Meisner, like Lee Strasberg, who's the
Lee
founder,
Strasberg.
Strasberg,
the founder of method acting, as well as Stella Adler, who was the teacher of Marlon Brando.
Yes.
And then a few other teachers who came out of the group theater. You had Harold Clurman, who was the main artistic director, and you had Elia Kazan, who was one of the actors in the group. These people were all collaborating together and creating some kind of a vibrant, dynamic theater after they were themselves inspired by the work of Stanislavski, when at the time was traveling from Moscow to the US and, put on his show. I think it was Othello or one of those plays from Shakespeare. And they were all taken by his performances and the performance that he directed and also starred in it. And so they decided to create their own group, call it the Group Theater.
Amazing to think of the kind of genesis of what we now think of as modern acting flourishing with people like you say, Marlon Brando, and then on to De Niro. It's funny to think that that genesis happened back then, and all these people were kind of together, studying together, and kind of inventing together. I agree. And
then what happened when the Depression finished, and of course, the Group Theater was kind of getting was becoming more of a brand, supposed to just an artistic way of making plays. Things weren't as pure, so to speak, and not as artistic. So you're starting to see the egos of, Strasberg and Sanford Meisner and Stella Adler. And I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm just saying, they were starting just like any music band, any groups, like you get to a point in your career where either you're going to stay together or you're going to split.
So the direction that Sanford Meisner went in, and that the kind of school that you kind of came through. Yeah. What kind of things go on there? I mean, he's kind of quite into breaking things down.
Yeah. Well, Sanford Meisner, like Lee Strasberg. I mean, you have to understand that all these teachers came from the same stock. So they might have a different approach to the final result, but in reality, the means are exactly the same. So for the same, and they all want the same thing. They want the truth to be told.
Yeah.
And the truth in acting terms and point of view will be the truth of the character as opposed to your own personal truth. And so, so Sanford Meisner had a different way of getting to the truth as opposed to Lee Strasberg or Stella Adler. And so I ended up studying the Lee's approach first through Sam for 5 years. And then after that, I felt like I didn't want to be a fanatic, obsessed with one particular technique. So I was curious by this group called the Actors Temple. The Actors Temple was led particularly by this man, Tom Ratcliffe, who was a student of Sandy Meisner during the 80s.
Right.
So he was traveling back and forth from the UK to the US. And he was a professional actor as well. He also was a director, a film director. So he at first then he knew what the technique really was. So he could actually say, I study Meisner.
Talking about techniques, that you mentioned repetition there, there's a big part of Meisner, which is this idea of repeating words or phrases.
Yeah, and the repetition.
It's quite deeply psychological, isn't it? So you kind of break it down so that the words that you're saying lose their meaning, but in that you find some truth. Is that right?
Yes. So basically, it depends on what level you start in the process. If you've never done repetition before, it's a very daunting, frightening moment when you just put on the spot in front of another person and there's a whole class watching you and you're just, including the teacher, and you're just there and you feel completely naked, although, like as an analogy, you just feel so vulnerable and so open to the elements. And the whole point about the repetition is that you are there and you cannot lie. In other words, so let's say you and I are standing in front of each other, and then only until we have a genuine impulse to say something, we'll say something to the other person. But it has to come from a genuine impulse, because otherwise you're lying. That's the whole point. Right. So you can just as well stay there in front of each other for 20 minutes, if so,
Wow.
But obviously, you're not going to get to that far, you know. But you'll probably one of the two will have an impulse to say something, you know, even if it's just a smile. So the impulse has to come from a behavior and movement. So in other words, if you're now standing in front of each other, and let's say we've been standing in front of each other for the last 20 seconds, and none of us are blinking or none of us are moving, but I see a little twitch in the corner of your eyes, I can say, you're nervous. And then you have to repeat, I'm nervous. And then you're nervous, I'm nervous. But it can also be that I say that, but you don't feel that you're nervous, but you can't, you have to repeat what the other person is saying because that's what they're seeing. You have to respect that that's what they're seeing. Even though you don't think you are nervous, you cannot go back. So you have to go forward and say, I'm nervous. But the way you say it is you can say it with an intention that you say, I'm not nervous.
Right.
You know?
So you can question the question in the answer. Or,
exactly. And so, and the point of the repetition is there. So you break a barrier where you become less self-aware. So you're no longer thinking about the people that are looking at you, the teacher is going to critique you, or, you know, it's just you are present with the other person in that moment. And if at any given point during the repetition, I'm start thinking about, I don't know, my wife hasn't cooked me dinner, that I am starving, or my kids, I forgot to take my children to school, that you're not present. And the other person will definitely see that you're not present. And maybe the teacher, if he's skilled enough, will say, what's going on? We'll stop the repetition.
So it's kind of exercises to help you break down yourself as an actor in order to build a character, a believable character, I guess.
Yes.
So the actor's not getting in the way, I suppose, of what you're...
Exactly. The actor should never get in the way of the characters, because otherwise you end up putting on a manifestation, or you end up mimicking as opposed to living.
It's fantastically. It kind of fits beautifully with our brand of we're the DIY cinema cult. There's something almost like you hear the kind of cults go through, as in, you know, cult members go through some serious deprogramming and reprogramming, right? As in, I mean, you could see it from the outside and think, wow, this is heavy stuff for people to go through.
Sounds like quite a daunting experience to go through.
Well,
like you say, Luke, on your first day, I would be terrified.
I was.
It's kind of exposing, right? You're just putting your and not even expose. At first, you wouldn't be exposing, and someone would say you're not exposing yourself enough. You need to break this down, right? And show.
It's not often you get asked to expose yourself.
Yeah, I remember exactly. Yes, I have seen people in the class doing other exercises where they were willing to undress themselves literally and coming into the room completely naked. But that will only happen if it's 100% necessary in order to break one of your barrier. I didn't personally come out on stage naked ever. But
still time.
I have seen, and it always end up being the
man.
man.
On this podcast.
It always end up being the man and never the women.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of penises in my career as a student.
DIY Cinema Cult.
So, Luca, going back to your career, correct me if I'm wrong, probably your first taste of like a large Hollywood set would have been your part in Rush, that Ron Howard movie.
Yeah.
So that must have been some kind of culture shock, suddenly being involved in a movie of that scale. Tell us about that.
I mean, I remember going to the audition with Nina Gold, and it was my first time that I actually met Nina Gold.
Nina Gold, by the way, is one of the biggest casting agents in the world, right? So if you're being cast by Nina Gold, it's party time already.
So anyway, I went into the room and I was lucky enough to meet her first chief in command, which was Robert Stern at the time. Mm-hmm. And then Robert, it was an important figure in my career because I ended up seeing Robert on many other casting as a result of that afterwards. because I was finally cast in this very tiny role in this huge Hollywood film, which was Rush, starring Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl, as well as Olivia Wilde and Alexandra Maria Lara, playing respectively the wives of James Hunt and Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
And so I went in, I was reading for a different role, which was going to be one of the mechanics. And it would have been a nice character to play, which in the end went on to be played by Vincent Riotta. So I was a bit disappointed. But then they called my agent and they said,
the role you
I know.
Great,
and then my agent called me and they said, but guess what? They didn't want to see you for that, but they liked your take on the role, and they want to consider you for another role. So they'd like to know whether you'll be interested in it. I said, yeah, sure, man. Of course, it's Ron Howard. I'm not going to say no.
I'm busy, Ron. Busy.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm doing a short film with Mark Hardman. Not disrespect. So I went. A week later, I got a news from my agent to say, oh, you know, Ron Howard, you have a meeting with Ron Howard and Nina Gold.
Amazing.
So I'm like, really? Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Just do exactly what you were doing. That's what they always tell you. Every agent, just keep doing what you were doing.
You were perfect. Just do it again.
Because I love the scene in that movie that you were in, because I remember when I saw it finally on the big screen, I was kind of cheering in the audience. But when you told me before, I think after you shot it, you were like, Mark, you know, I can't be too excited because my scene might get cut.
Yeah.
The way these work, you go out and you shoot for a week and then you find out you're cut.
Yeah.
And I said to you, didn't I? I was like, so describe your scene. And you go, well, it's the scene when Niki Lauda, you know, he meets his girlfriend for the love interest for the first time, and they pick up you and another guy broken down in your car, right?
No, they broke down, and so
they broke down,
and we come by.
Yeah. And that's right. You picked them up, but she doesn't know that he's a race car driver,
exactly.
So he gets to show it off in your car. And I was like, mate, that's the scene where he meets the girl. You're not gonna get cut. You're gonna be in the movie.
I think it's the funniest moment in the film as well.
It's a lovely
one of those moments where, when I saw it with an audience, everybody in the audience laughed, and I was like, that's the only and first and last time that you had a proper laugh in that movie. It's a lovely moment of like, and I guess it's still in there story wise, because yes, it's to do with his relationship with the girl, but it also shows the depth of their fame at that point. They're bigger than anybody that you could imagine, and people on the roadsides kind of that you would pick up will know who they are.
And I remember at the time we were filming in Stuttgart, and in this place that looked like Italy.
Beautiful.
And I remember all the Germans where we were filming. It was just a small town, but literally the roads were like paved with people, like all fans of Daniel Bruhl and Alexandra Maria Lara. I'm like, what the fuck? And there were like something like 150 crew members, you know, like all these big trucks and lights and what have you, all thinking, fucking hell, I thought it was going to be in the cinema. I didn't think it was going to be that huge, you know. But it was my first time I was in a big blockbuster. I mean, that was a blockbuster, and the level of I wouldn't say professionalism, because that's not the right word, but the level of maybe commitment from the production companies is way, way above the line. I mean, it just.
What are you saying about a Mark Hardman production? Come on.
I would do Mark Hardman anytime, man.
Hey, you must have been on quite, I mean, it was a big car scene, wasn't it? So was it like a big rig? And where's Ron Howard? Is he sat on a rig?
No, Ron Howard is very hands-on as a director. Right. Doesn't tell you what to do to the T, but he gives you a sense of what he wants. For instance, I have to say, I felt extremely comfortable. I was nervous. I was very nervous, but I didn't feel like I was misplaced or out of place. So I think that it was down to my training as well, you know. Because
come on, you steal the scene. You know, you steal it massively.
I don't know, but I just felt like I could try things, you know. But the way he was communicating what he wanted, the results that he wanted, And also Raffaello was very giving as a scene partner too, you know. So we had some kind of banter going on, the two of us. It was a good chemistry between the two of us, and we became friends as a result. So I felt like I could try things. And so I remember Ron Howard, the way he explained it to us, you are two football fans who just won the Italian Cup. So we kept on doing that, back and forth. But I just didn't, because I'm not a huge football fan, you know. But then he said, okay, how about you are two kids in a candy store and you can have whatever you want. Anything you want. And I said, anything we want? Anything you want. Boom, that was it.
That's great.
That was it. That was just like, you know, okay, well, see, if you can have anything you want, I can do whatever I want. And I will do exactly that. I'll do whatever I want. He's my biggest candy. I can't believe it.
You are listening to DIY Cinema Cult.
Got to talk a little bit about Peaky Blinders, because I mean I'm a massive fan of the series, and I'm sure many people are. I think it's kind of amazing for a series set in kind of pre-Second World War Birmingham to have got such a kind of international fan base. So I think, and your part in it is great. It's perfect for you.
Thank you.
You're this sort of understated kind of gangster character. So talk a little bit about getting Peaky Blinders and what it was like to work on the series.
Again, it was Shaheen Beg's casting. I remember my agent said to me, just give me your best. And I'm like, as an actor, when you hear that, you're just like, whatever the fuck it means. I mean, come on. As if you never give your best. I just thought, okay, I'm going to brush that off. And then I said, what is it? It's Peaky Blinders, mate. Never watched the series at that point. So I'm like, okay, Peaky Blinders. Why, no problem. Just send me the script. I say yes, no problem. Just send it through. And then I'm starting to reading it. And I'm starting to liking it a lot. I'm thinking, fuck.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, I wonder if I could play Luca Ciangretta. Honestly, if I'm that good, maybe I could get my agent to bargain for me to play the lead as opposed to.
Yeah.
And then my agent was like,
is that Adrien Brody's character?
Oh, yeah.
And then he said, mate, even if you do 100%, I don't think I'm going to give you Luca Ciangretta. But let's see what happens. Just get the role first. I was hooked after the first 3 episodes. I was hooked, and so I watched it, and then I understood where they were going to go from the second to the third, and then eventually to the fourth. And so I did my audition. I said to my wife, who was filming it, we didn't have all the paraphernalia that we have now to do self tapes.
Was it a self tape?
Yeah, it was a self tapes with my iPhone 4S and lots of books and a very guerrilla style tripod. It was really that bad. And then my wife always had to delete the deleted. You know, during film, you have to delete the deleted because there wasn't enough storage in the memory of the telephone. It was just a nightmare. So I was trying to do my best.
Did you have a bicycle tire around you?
Yeah, it was on the side of me.
It's my lucky tire.
Yeah. So I remember I was, okay, I've got Jaman, my wife. I've got this 4S. What's missing? And straight away I went to my wardrobe, and there was a jacket from a designer that had a very old-fashioned lapel. And I figured I'm going to wear that. And I remember after I did it, I just felt so positive. I felt like a buzz.
Yeah.
And I remember sending it to you, Mark. I've sent it to another friend of mine, Michele, who's another filmmaker. And then to my father-in-law, who's an investigative journalist. He met a lot of mafia gangsters, predominantly in Britain, but also in the US. So he knew whether he will be able to tell me if I was fishing for some kind of cliche as opposed to a sense of realism, you know. And all the including yourself, all the feedback were all positive, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna get this. I really think I'm gonna get this. I honestly thought I'm gonna get this. If I'm not gonna get this character, I'm gonna get another one. A week before shooting, they said, you got the role. They want to offer you Matteo. Do you want it? Yeah.
No, I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
And I'm like, who's playing Luca Changretta? Still didn't know who plays Luca Changretta. I was like, you know, it's a week before shooting. I'd like to know who I'm working with. Nothing. 2 days before I got my train tickets to get to Liverpool, I look on the casting sheets and I see Adrien Brody, Luca Changretta. And I see all the scenes that I have with him for the whole production. And then I see Luca, Matteo, and Alfie. I'm like, hold on a second. I said, what? And I was literally my wife, and at night, going for the casting sheet and a casting call and everything. And you could see all my scenes and who am I acting opposite. So she could see that I was going to be working with Tom Hardy and Adrien Brody at the same time. I'm like, no fucking way.
Oh, wow.
Yes, fucking way. You're going to be working with these two guys.
I mean, that is a heavy scene.
On the first day.
That was your first day?
Yes. I'm like, fuck. I could not believe it.
That is a heavy scene to be in.
I literally called my agent. I was like, you're not going to believe this. What? I'm actually working with Adrien Brody and Tom Hardy. Tomorrow.
I've got to say, one of my favorite scenes, and I was a fan of Peaky Blinders before, and then so I was not going to never kind of watch you in it. And there's an amazing scene where it's you, Adrien Brody, and the other actor, I don't know the name of, who plays the other family member.
Jake.
And you're coming into Liverpool, the docks, right, or whatever it is, however you're coming into the country, and I think you're first through, right? So you come through first, and I was like, man, I'm tuning in for this. I'm tuning in to see Luca. I can't wait. And so it's the bits with it's the scene with the three badasses are showing up from New York to sort out the Peaky Blinders, and you're coming through customs, and you come through with your hat kind of on or something, and then as the customs guy checks your papers, you kind of lift your hat up and you give him a grin, because you're just like, you're trying to put your best face forward. And it was complete. I've got to say, Luca, my heart popped. It was a fucking movie star moment. I was like, fucking nailed that. It was like you were the movie. Adrien Brody's in the queue behind you, and you're like, fuck him.
Yeah.
It was just brilliant. I was like, yes. You had quite a lot of fun with Adrien Brody, because you worked really closely with him on that shoot, and you two got on quite well. You were helping him a lot with his Italian, right?
Yeah. I mean, he had allegedly a Sicilian friend or long distance relative who helped him with the Italian. And I remember him reading the lines to me at the time in the hotel at night, because he said to me, do you want to rehearse? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Of course. And I have, some relatives who are from Sicily. But I'm trying to understand what kind of accent he was doing from Sicily. Could not understand a single word he was saying.
Wow.
I swear to God, I could not understand. So I said, look, I don't know really how to say this and to put it out there, but who's your friend? I mean, where's he from? How long has he been out of Sicily? Has he ever been in Sicily? I said, yeah, no, he's Sicilian. He's actually there. I could, to this day, I still don't know what he was saying when he was saying anything.
Wow. Oh my God.
I did not understand his Sicilian dialect.
Yeah. And what about working with Tom Hardy? What the hell is that like on a set?
Well, that's the thing. So Adrien and I were rehearsing, and so he asked me to read Alfie's lines in it too. I'm like, okay, so my lines are about 2 or 3 in this particular scene with them. And Alfie's line is just like a fucking huge, manuscript of lines after lines after lines. I'm like, you really want me to say all those lines? Can you not just say your lines? And I get cut to the chase and just say to prompt.
That was Tom Hardy's character, Alfie Solomon, right? Yeah,
Solomon, yeah. And he said, no, just read all the lines so you can get me, so I can rehearse my, whatever you wanted to do. I said, okay. So we went on for hours, like literally for many, many hours rehearsing.
Yeah.
And despite being a rehearsal and being tedious, because obviously you had to read one's lines that you're not going to say the next day, but you're still excited because you're working with an award-winning actor in your bedroom
Yeah.
in Liverpool. You're thinking, fucking hell, yeah, man, I'm going to do that, no problem. They don't even need to pay me for this, you know.
But a bit of money would be helpful, you know.
Yeah. Then afterwards, I remember we had something to eat. We had a bite. We chatted a little bit. And he was tired. I went to bed. He went to bed. And the following morning, was pretty up early. And we were in this room, in this, in Alfie Solomon's distillery, because we've been filming that whole day. The other scene prior to us meeting Solomon, we shot all of them before Tom was there with us, because we knew that his time with us would have been very precious, and he didn't have much leeway in, with his schedules and availability. So we filmed all of that before, and then he came, and I remember there was a lot of commotion outside. Passers-by was trying to get an autograph and stuff, and he was a gentleman, so to speak. He would, whenever he could, he would go and sign, and then eventually came downstairs, and we filmed it. And we filmed it for the rest of the day, literally until we filmed with Tom from, I remember it was around 1 or 2 in the afternoon all the way until 9 o'clock in the evening. Mm-hmm. It was a long day shoot. I think all in all, it was around 12 hours.
Wow, yeah.
A whole day.
And what do you know of his process? I mean, did you get a kind of a sense of the way he prepares for a role, and if it differs from the way you would prepare or Adrien would prepare?
Well, Tom went to Drama Centre London to study acting, and I was lucky enough to have auditioned for Drama Centre London and to be put on a waiting list. And then I decided to go my way and study with those people I told you. But then after I finished studying with those guys, I went back and I just met up with a few teachers from Drama Centre who were the faculty when Tom was there. And they were Giles Foreman, Liana Nyquist, James Camp, and many others, including Vladimir, the head teacher. So I was lucky enough to train, and Christopher Vettis, to train with all these people afterwards. So I knew what kind of preparation he would have. And you can see in Tom's work, he's always very physical. He's always very, unlike Michael Fassbender, who also is very physical, who also studied comes from Drama Centre London. And so the movement will then inform his state of being inside. And so I knew it. And I knew what Adrien was going, because I kind of studied the same technique as he did at first hand. So I felt I could be like almost, so to speak, the referee between these two. Because I knew where one was standing and I knew where the other one was standing. So I knew what kind of technique they were going to use. And obviously you don't feel like, oh, he's going to use this technique and he's going to use that technique. It's like when you see a football match and both teams are so equal to each other, it becomes a beautiful show to watch.
I mean, your character would have been a fish out of water in New York. You're this Italian-American gangster. Now you've come to England. So you're a fish out of water twice removed. And there's a lovely scene where you're talking about spotted dick, which I found tickled me a lot.
That was actually added in the ADR.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had to add that lines in the ADR, and there was a choice. There was a choice between that and then another one. I don't remember what it was. I remember David Caffrey, the director, said, "Can we say spotted dick as opposed to aubergine?" Because we found out that aubergines at the time weren't in England.
I was going to say they were exotic. Yeah.
So we had to change it. And I remember saying to David, "But what else is, historically speaking, what else is incorrect in this series? And you're going to have a go at me for saying aubergine. And you want to say spotted dick." When I went to Liverpool and I was shooting Peaky Blinders, I met so many people, particularly the people who were working in the distillery. I could totally relate to those guys. They were real Liverpoolian, and they could totally relate to me. So I would just chat in between takes whilst waiting for the camera to be set and everything to be set and everything. And maybe Adrien was going to his trailer and Tom was just, going through his lines or whatever. And I just didn't want to bother them. I would just chat to these guys because I could totally, it doesn't feel weird to me, but it would feel weird to them because obviously their career sprung up pretty quickly when they were still young. So they have. I mean, Adrien Brody won an Oscar when he was 21 or 22. You know, he was still relatively young.
Right, yeah.
And Tom, I think, had his breakthrough with A Life Backwards. What is that?
Stuart, A Life Backwards. Do you know I was in that movie?
Oh, here we go.
I like you, Luca. I've shared a scene with Tom Hardy. I was in Stuart, A Life Backwards. I was bloody Benedict Cumberbatch's hand double.
Oh, that's right. You were a hand double. I remember this.
So basically, I worked on that film, which was a BBC movie, right? That starred Tom Hardy.
It was a great film.
An amazing film. There was basically these scenes where Benedict Cumberbatch's character was drawing in a book, and they became little animations, and I was the guy who was animating those drawings. So in the first scene where Benedict Cumberbatch's character meets Tom Hardy, he draws a little thing in the book.
That's you.
And it's my hand.
That's amazing.
And I don't want to say I stole the scene. It's not for me to say. I let other people. If other people want to say, then it's fine.
Well, wasn't there at one point the plan, or didn't we even make, or you made a hand model showreel?
I did make a hand model showreel. So So it had that clip from that movie in, and then a couple of other things I did. I could have been a contender.
Yeah, you did. I think you probably are a contender.
What this is a DIY cinema podcast for DIY filmmakers.
DIY Cinema Cult.
So Luca, like many actors around today, you've been very proactive in generating your own material, even getting into film production. Is that an avenue you can see yourself going down in the future, producing, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, our first production was Mother,
which is a film that Aaron is AD on. I was directing. Exactly. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, and that was our first venture, and obviously it's. Thank you, guys. We can't thank you highly enough of all the hard work.
Starring your lovely wife Jaman and Margulies, right? So
Margulies.
Yeah. So that was our first venture, and I was very keen of encouraging my wife, because she's a prolific writer, and she has a different kind of aptitude towards acting. Yeah. Not only being a woman, but also with the kind of stories that she wants to tell and she wants to see. And then we just wanted to test the water and see what it was like. And then on the back of Mother, Juman, my wife, managed to win a scholarship for filmmaking at the LFA, London Film Academy in Kensington. And so she wanted to further her skills as a scriptwriter and director, because that's eventually the route that she wants to do, and then appear or star in her own films. And that's something that I encourage, because I think, talking about minority, unless you create your own voice, you're never going to see what you want to see portray on television, or be it in the cinema or in the theater. You have to be the voice of what you want to see. I don't think we're there yet.
You must have seen a million scripts come your way that are a stereotypical view of an Italian, let's say, that you don't really want to be putting forward. And the same with Jaman. As maybe she is of
British
Lebanese origin, and she would often complain, to me as well, about she was being cast as the terrorist bomber's wife, or the kind of abused kind of Arabic kind of woman terrorist, and it was
or migrants of some kind. And of course,
this is like, well, this isn't even my heritage or my background.
Yeah, exactly, because Juman went. It's funny you said that, because, for instance, my wife, she comes from a very good background, kind of on the upper side, middle class,
and she's mixed race too.
She's mixed race. Her mom is from Lebanon, and her dad is from Somerset. So she grew up in Hampstead as well. That's where we met. We met in an acting class. So we don't fit the criteria of what's typically British or typically Italian. We're different people, but we're still human beings. And so, just to finish on Juman. So her growing up in Hampstead, And yet she has to play roles in Pashto, a language that she doesn't even speak. But yet, in order to get roles or to work as an actor, you have to put on accent that are native to your own. So
sometimes maybe portraying and pushing a cultural stereotype that's unhelpful.
Yes. And then they're like, she used to go to Lebanon when she was a kid, and, she has memories of Lebanon post-war.
Yeah.
And then just before the 2007 war. So she has certain types of memory and relationship to Lebanon that aren't the ones that they portray in, let's say, Hollywood films or any film that talks about migrant or the Middle East. Because the Middle East is a vast area on our planet. And people, when they think of the Middle East, straight away they think of a certain type of Middle Eastern people, and not like...
And even Lebanese, within Lebanon, there's 5, 6, 7 distinct different kind of cultures and backgrounds.
Exactly.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
So, Luca, we've got to ask you about a certain... You mentioned him earlier on, Raging Bull. Somebody you've worked with who I think is, on everybody's bucket list if you're an actor. Let's talk about Mr. Bobby De Niro and your recent fantastic performance alongside him.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I mean, he's a gentleman. I was lucky enough to be in this commercial for Warburton's. I remember at the audition, they wanted some Italian American, and they wanted some American accents, New York, and all the shebangs will go with it. And I always take that with a pinch of salt, because that means they don't really know what they're looking for. They just want to see. I've got a leather jacket, which is the one that I used in the filming, and then I had some pants that were kind of 70s-ish, and I thought, I'm going to wear that. I think as an actor, if you can wear something already at the audition that can give a sense, a feel of the situation, the character, you're already, I wouldn't say halfway there, but a good way there. Because then you make the life so much easier for the director, because it's either a yes or a no straight away.
Did you know from the start this had Robert De Niro in this ad?
No. We didn't. Wow. We didn't know anything. We knew that it was going to be a celebrity, but we didn't know who what. So I went along, and they told us to improvise some stuff. I just didn't feel it. And I came home and I said to my wife, I don't think I got this. I have a bad feeling. And then
you're probably thinking, Jaman, and it's all right if I don't get it, because it's just a fucking bagels advert.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Jaman said. I don't want it, just a bagel advert. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
What else can she say? Because otherwise,
forget about it.
Otherwise, you're gonna start feeling bad. I didn't get it. It was good. Money was good.
At what point in this process do you find out that Robert De Niro is?
Wait. So the second time they called us in, they said we're starting to hear something like a rumor that is going to be a big American actor. So I went in for the second audition. And I remember during my acting class or my acting training, I remember learning the monologue from Raging Bull. And I always have it with me in case, the situation arises where they ask me to say something with an American accent, and they say, just improvise anything. I would just say, right. It's like having, it's like a musician or a singer would have a song always in the back of their mind, 1, 2, 3, and they can sing. As an actor,
is this a monologue where Jake LaMotta does the Marlon Brando thing in the mirror that you talked of before? Is that monologue? Is that the one you mean?
No. It's the one that he talks about entertainment. Is at the very end.
Yeah. Okay.
Where he talks about Sugar Ray.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And the horse. Anyway, so I always had that. Anyway, so we went into the room. We did the whole thing again, like in the first time, and I thought, well, maybe they like what I did the first time, so hopefully I'm going to do the same thing again, and they may like it again, and then in the end they said, okay, now we want you to speak with a New York accent or New Jersey, whatever, and you can say anything you want. So I was like, anything we want. So they all did their own thing. So I just figured, nah, I'm going to stick with my own guts. I'm going to stick with what I decided to do before I came into the room. I'm just going to stick with that, and I'm going to go on with that. I have to commit to my choices. So I did the monologue. They were all on the floor laughing, man. Literally, they were on the floor laughing, because then I was improvising with
Because
Vinny.
at this time, do they know that Robert De Niro is going to be the role, and then you're doing Robert De Niro?
They knew, but I didn't. Exactly. So I was like, why are they laughing? They're not supposed to be laughing. So I started improvising with the other two guys. So we all came on stage, one stage in the room in front of the camera. So we're all laughing and laughing. I'm thinking, I must have got this. I mean, come on, they're all laughing. I mean, what are they looking for? So we went out of the room, and they were like, do you think we got it? What do you mean? They must have thought we were great. I mean, they were laughing. We were in for almost an hour. And then I'm starting to think for a moment, literally, it was a split second. And I said to Vincenzo, you know what? I think we might have got it. Do you know why? Because I was saying the monologue from Robert De Niro's in Raging Bull. Yeah. And I know that Robert De Niro is going to be in England at that time.
The penny dropped, right?
Yeah. Wow. I said, I think we got it, guys. No. Literally within a few days, you got the role.
Amazing.
They didn't tell us who was going to be in it. So I'm like, So eventually we go for the whole process of not knowing, but imagining it's going to be Robert De Niro.
For listeners who haven't seen the advert, and if you haven't, I say seek it out on YouTube right now, because this isn't an advert where Luca's cast as a guy in a shop handing Robert De Niro a bagel. It's a whole recreation of Goodfellas.
I've seen the cinema version of this as well, and it's like a really long cut.
Amazing.
I mean, it's, not
it's
a
amazing.
30-second ad, is it?
You do tons of scenes with the big man himself, and it must have been an incredible working relationship on the set. What's it like working with him?
Yeah, well, it was so when it was a 3.5 days shoot. And long days. And the first day he didn't turn up because he wasn't meant to be there. So it was just mainly us and the things that we do when he's not there. Right. Then from the second days onward, he was always on set. He was in his trailer. And that was during the time where one of the Trump, Michael Cove, I think it was, one of the Trump's administrators who was in charge of the FBI, I think, went against Trump.
Yeah. Right.
And he was called in to testify against Trump.
Because De Niro's a big anti-Trump. He's very vocal himself, isn't he? In that
part. And he was reading a book about him.
Right.
He was reading a book about Trump. I don't remember the title. So he had his PA and everything, and you could have addressed his PA before you want to speak to him, or depending on what kind of relationship you have, you could have just gone up and talked to him. But I would see that everybody's talking to the PA first, so I figured I might as well do the same. And then he was starting to chat about the Trump administration. He was really tuned in to it. So when we weren't shooting, he would go on in his trailer and follow live the trial. It was just very concerned, still is very concerned about America and the way he's led by this administration. And so we were on set, and he would come on set, and he will always be a gentleman. He will always be very polite. He would ask all of us three where we're from, if we're really Italian. And then he said to me, do you do this for a living? I said, well, yeah. I said, do you do this for a living? So, good question. I don't know. What do you think? I said, I don't know, because I never seen you doing a commercial before. So you may be wrong on that, my friend. He would ask us this kind of questions. He would ask us, about our families. But very, I wouldn't say aloof, but very distant. Yeah. Not like you'd expect Martin Scorsese to be, So you think because he works with Martin Scorsese, he will be exactly the same, but no, he's not. Yeah. He's a very reserved, very shy, but very polite man. Yeah. Okay, fine. So that was the second day. The third day, which was going to be pretty much his rap day. We were there, and again, long days, similar things, So then we were supposed to be doing these scenes where, in Goodfellas, you basically, the three guys, De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Ray Liotta, will have to bury the body. It was one of those iconic scene of Goodfellas, and we were supposed to recreate that, but with the bagels.
I loved it. It was so closely done as well. It was so well done.
I know, man. I'm a big fan of that film, so I was like blue screen and everything. I was supposed to be doing that with the show. Obviously, there was real soil and lots of bagels and shovels and what have you. So we were there again. Nobody's really breaking the ice here. We're there. Juman was like on the last day of filming. She was like, "Listen, man, come on, he's your idol. You can't not go up to him and just say anything. You're just gonna have to find a way. You're just gonna have to find a way of getting up to him and just say, congratulations, you've been inspiration for my life. Whatever.
Just say what you've always wanted to say to Robert De Niro, right?
Exactly. So you've got to say, because otherwise you're going to regret for the rest of your life. It's going to be miserable.
Well, I mean, Luca, for every actor, it's like we said before, it's got to be on your bucket list, right? To work with that.
Yeah, it's like a jizz moment.
Well, to put it another way, yes. Okay.
So I just said, because then you say cut, and he was there. He wasn't going to go anywhere. I'm like, what kind of... So I just wanted to say, you'll been the best inspiration for my life for many, many years. I've watched all of your work and I supported your work in everything you did. And I just wanted to say, if it wasn't for you, I would never probably have taken this as a career. Wow. And he said, I don't know if this is going to be good. And he said, no, this is so good. It's good for me. It's good enough for me. So I wanted to thank you. And I hope, we're going to be able to work on bigger and better things together one day in God's will. And he said, yeah, absolutely. And then I said, do you mind if we take selfies with you? Or at that point we had a big break. So the director said, hey, how about everyone takes a selfie? And then he said, yeah, absolutely. So we stopped, we started taking, it was selfie time for literally he wanted everybody. He said, no, just everyone. So he started calling everyone at a time. So we were all excited to take pictures with him. And I took shitloads and I sent them all to my dad. He was so proud.
He must have been so proud, man. Oh, man. Well, Luca, that seems like the place to kind of leave it for now. I mean, it's been so lovely chatting to you as always. And you've been a brilliant guest. You've been full of such brilliant stories about fascinating people. And you've done such great work. So we look forward to seeing what the next things are you're going to be doing, man.
Got a little part tucked away for Luca in Routine. We're hoping.
Great script.
Absolutely. Well, the thing I've written, Luca, don't forget, many years ago, I think, as we all do from time to time in our careers, we always kind of go, shit, when are things going to fucking happen for me? And way before you got your part in Rush, Luca, I hope you don't mind me saying this about you, but you were like, oh man, it's just like, I've been doing audition, and nothing's happening for me. And I was like, mate, I'm writing a part in a script for you. We're going to do a feature film. You're going to be in it. And now it turns out you don't fucking need my part that I've written for you. I mean, this...
I'll still be very happy to be in the film.
I mean, this was like 3 or 4 feature films ago, so it wasn't Routine, but pretty much in every feature film script I've written a part for you because I made a promise to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
But the way your career's going, it turns out I'm gonna have to like find a Luca like.
Hey.
Man, I hope so. And hopefully I'll be able to be benefactor and invest in your films. So maybe on the other side.
There you go.
Hopefully one day.
As an actor, what kind of things are you looking for as a director? What kind of... This might be useful for indie filmmakers who are directing actors for the first time. What do you kind of find unhelpful or helpful as an actor?
I think what's helpful to every actor is if a director understands the process of what I assume every actor has to go through in order to inhabit the skin of its character, And then that sometimes can be an easy walk, depending how close or how far you are from that character. If it's a character that you can relate to 100%, then it's going to be easier. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It's going to be easier to relate to it, but then you still have to find the character because it's never going to be you. I mean, it's you playing it, but it's never going to be you being you, And then there are other characters and other times where, you know, the journey is really, really further away from you to that character, and that it needs a director who's able to give you the means to get there. Filmmaking takes a lot of time, and time is always a problem when it comes to shooting certain scenes at a certain time. If you need natural light or whatever lighting, or setting up the cameras and the rigs, it takes time. So everything is about time in filmmaking. So whenever you have that split second or moment to have that dialogue with the actor, it's great to be able to have that kind of open relationship.
Do you find as an actor, maybe a director who is less sympathetic or less knowledgeable of an actor's process, do you find it hard when they will say things like, you need to be angry in this, or you need to be more angry, you need to be more forceful, you need to be, without giving you any in between?
Well, if I just started, I would probably say yes to you now. But then I think I'm a little bit more mature than when I first started. And I think
now you have your own process figured out.
And you have to be able to dilute and take out of what they're telling you to do. So you have to really interpret what they're saying, and with the best of your ability, trust that what you're doing, it's right, you know, depending on what emotions you're working on. But you have to go to places you may not like, and you may have to work with people who may not be emotionally open. You know, you have to have self-esteem. If you have that, if you trust yourself and you commit to your choices and you trust your choices.
Luca, I feel like we've really hit on an interesting subject matter so late in the interview. We're gonna have you back on another podcast. We're gonna have to do like a director-actor relationship podcast to talk about. But man, this has been such a fun episode. So
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to suggest maybe my wife Shuman to come on podcast, because she's a very dynamic character. She, you know, like I was saying to you, she has a different angle on the acting, and being both an actress and a filmmaker and a writer, she's more acute with things like writing your own material. She can have good insight, and she's also pro women, and she's also pro a lot of things about minority scene today. So I think she will be a very good.
That's a good idea. Let's do that. We'll stick that in the diary. We'll do like a kind of director actor kind of podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Luca,
nice one, Luca.
Mark, Aaron, lovely to see you via Zoom. Man.
Great stuff. Thank you so much again,
mate. Thank you so much for doing this.
Nice one.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
You are listening to DIY Cinema Cult.
There we go. There he is.
Amazing stuff.
What a brilliant interview. I mean, Luca could just kind of chat for days.
Yeah. I mean, with so much density of interesting and important information there, particularly the stuff around kind of the actor and director relationship, which is really going to appeal to the DIY filmmaker, who often, you know, they haven't necessarily gone the film school route. So, and also obviously some amazing tidbits and information about real life experiences on very big sets as well, which is
absolutely. I think with the director-actor relationship, a lot of indie filmmakers come a bit unstuck, where they've got a vision in their mind and they are kind of passionate about lots of directors. But necessarily, you know, when it comes to the nuts and bolts of shooting a scene, their relationship with the actors kind of falls apart on day one. And I think it is a very important thing to kind of bolster that, build that, because like from what, you know, my advice to any director starting out would be to build really strong relationships with your actors. You know, Luca is a guy who I met 10 or more years ago on shorts, and your actors are gonna, if you cast the right actors and you cast good actors, your actors are gonna go on and be on amazing sets way before you are, and they're gonna have all these, you know, these experiences. So build these relationships, keep in contact with them, because they're going to really help you out in the future. Yeah,
and I mean, I think a lot of young filmmakers, and I've overheard it from you know, being in kind of workshops and things, a lot of directors think about the result that they want,
Exactly.
and they don't think about the process the actor has to go through. And I'll never forget being on a workshop. We were getting the opportunity to work with real actors on a script that I'd done, and there were various other sort of directors there with their scripts. And I never forget this director saying to the actor who was playing the part, who's doing a sort of script read, he said, well, this character's a bit kind of neutral, so can you play it just sort of neutral? And you could see the actor's face going, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, what, how do I possibly play neutral? And I mean, and you know, a positive experience I've had before with actors is where you kind of feed their imagination and then you let them run with it. So I was really interested to hear about Ron Howard sort of creating scenarios for an actor to feed their imagination. So you feed the imagination of an actor. What you don't say is be really happy, but what you say is imagine you're a kid in a sweet shop who can kind of have anything you want. So you're feeding their imagination, you're allowing them to run with that, and then you get the result as an effect, not telling them what the effect that you want is.
Exactly. It sounded like what Ron Howard was doing was not being prescriptive to the scene as on the page. It was creating an atmosphere where Luca and his co-star could feel very relaxed, and then they could kind of play on a base kind of suggestion that he kind of given them.
Yeah, and he allowed them to experience an emotion, or to be inside an emotion, rather than saying give me the emotion. And I think it's often, and it's very interesting kind of hearing about, you know, Stanislavski and all of these, because people who may not know, Stanislavski is sort of in a way the Russian kind of innovator behind, you know, where the method came from.
Okay, so guys, and don't forget to send us your freaky 1 minute films to the DIY Cinema Cult 1 minute film festival. We still want your movies.
We want your movies, and just, I think probably the simplest thing is to post it to the Instagram or the Facebook groups, or send us them privately if you feel that they're very freaky and they can't really be tolerated in the public eye. But I think eventually everyone's gonna see it. So post it to the Instagram or to the Facebook groups, and you know, keep it under 1 minute. Keep it DIY, and you
socially distanced.
You know, we look forward to seeing them.
See you later, listeners. Night night.
Follow us.
Follow us.
Follow us on Twitter at DIY Cinema Cult, or on Instagram we are DIY_cinema_cult. Seek out the DIY Cinema Cult group on Facebook, or why not email us at DIYcinemacult@gmail.com.